Admiral stood on the command bridge of the dreadnought Eternal Dominion and looked out at the stars. His fleet floated in perfect formation behind him. 12 warships, 2 carriers, thousands of fighters ready to launch, 14,000 soldiers and crew members. This was Battle Group Ascendant, one of the most powerful forces in the Galactic Empire. For 40,000 years they had ruled this part of the galaxy. They had conquered 10,000 worlds. They had crushed every species that stood against them. No one challenged the Empire anymore. No one dared. Was bored. Patrol duty at the frontier was not exciting work. Nothing ever happened out here. The region beyond the border was what the Empire called dead space. No planets, no resources, no life, just empty darkness that stretched forever. That was why the sensor alert surprised him. "Admiral," his sensor officer called out. Her voice was strange, confused. "We are detecting a vessel. It is coming from deep space, from the dead zone." Turned around. "That is impossible. Nothing lives out there. Nothing has ever lived out there." "I am seeing it clearly, Admiral. One ship. It is moving toward our position." The Admiral walked to the sensor station and looked at the screen himself. There it was, a single dot of light moving through the darkness. The computer was trying to identify it, but the result kept coming back the same way. Unknown configuration, unknown origin, unknown species. "How big?" asked. "Small, Admiral, barely cruiser class, much smaller than our destroyers." Felt his confidence return. One small ship against his entire battle group. This was not a threat. This was an insect flying toward a flame. "Open a channel," he ordered. "All frequencies." The communication officer worked his controls. "Channel open, Admiral." Spoke in the formal tone he used for inferior species. "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral of the Galactic Empire. You have entered restricted space. Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. If you do not comply, you will be destroyed." They waited. The bridge was silent except for the soft hum of the ship systems. Seconds passed, then minutes. "No response, Admiral," the communication officer said. Narrowed his eyes. The unknown ship had not slowed down. It had not changed course. It just kept coming as if his message meant nothing at all. "Show me this ship," the Admiral commanded. The main screen flickered and displayed the vessel. Leaned forward to study it. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was matte black, almost invisible against the darkness of space. Its shape was smooth and curved with no sharp edges. He could not see any weapon ports. He could not see any engine exhausts. He could not even tell which end was the front. "What kind of power source is it using?" he asked. The sensor officer shook her head slowly. "I cannot tell, Admiral. The readings make no sense. It is like the ship is pulling energy from space itself, from nothing." Strange, very strange, but was not worried. Strange did not mean dangerous. His ships carried enough firepower to crack a planet in half. One mysterious cruiser was not going to scare him. "The vessel continues to ignore us," his first officer reported. "It will pass through our formation in 12 minutes." "No, it will not," said. He returned to his command chair and sat down. "All ships, battle formation, charge main weapons. We will fire a warning volley. If they still do not respond, we will disable their engines and take them by force." The fleet moved like a well-trained animal. Ships spread out into attack positions. Weapons systems came online. Targeting computers locked onto the small black vessel. "Warning volley ready, Admiral," the weapons officer announced. Allowed himself a small smile. Perhaps this patrol would not be so boring after all. An unknown species with unknown technology. The Empire would want to study this ship. He might even get a promotion for capturing it. "Fire," he said. 12 ships fired at once. Bright beams of energy shot across space toward the black vessel. They were aimed to miss, passing close enough to show the unknown ship that the meant business. The beams never reached their target. Something happened, did not understand what. One moment everything was normal. The next moment, alarms were screaming across every ship in the fleet. "Admiral," the sensor officer shouted. Her voice was full of terror. "Our reactors, all of them, they are failing." Jumped to his feet. "What? That is not possible." But the lights on the bridge were already flickering. The hum of the engines was dying. All around him, officers were shouting reports of system failures. Life support offline, weapons offline, shields offline. Everything was shutting down at once. Through the window could see his other ships. They were going dark too. One by one, the lights on every vessel in his fleet were dying. He saw the carrier Glorious Purpose start to break apart. Its hull was cracking open from the inside, as if some invisible hand was crushing it. The whole thing took 4.7 seconds. In less than 5 seconds, Battle Group Ascendant went from the most powerful force in the sector to floating wreckage. 14,000 died without understanding what had killed them. They never saw a weapon fire. They never saw an attack. They simply stopped existing. Admiral fell to his knees as the eternal dominion broke apart around him. The air was rushing out through cracks in the hull. His vision was going dark. With his last bit of strength, he reached for the emergency beacon on his belt. It was a simple device designed to survive anything. His fingers found the activation button. He had time to speak 3 words before the void took him. It didn't stop. The black vessel continued on its path. It did not slow down. It did not turn. It simply passed through the field of debris as if nothing had happened. Pieces of destroyed warships bounced off its hull and spun away into the darkness. Inside the vessel, lights blinked softly on control panels. The ship systems noted that a minor threat had been neutralized. No damage had been sustained. No crew intervention had been required. The vessel was heading toward the galactic core. It had been asleep for a very long time, and now it was awake. It wanted to see what the galaxy looked like after 15,000 years. It was curious. Behind it, Admiral's emergency beacon floated among the wreckage of his fleet. It was transmitting his final words over and over again, sending them out into the darkness, waiting for someone to hear. It didn't stop, it didn't stop, it didn't stop. Someone would hear, and when they did, the Galactic Empire would learn what fear truly meant. The throne room of Nexus was the largest structure in the galaxy. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds formed inside it. Its walls were made of black stone taken from 100 conquered worlds. For 40,000 years, the high regents of the empire had ruled from this place. They had never known defeat. They had never known fear. Today, both of those things changed. High Regent sat on the obsidian throne and watched the recording play for the 3rd time. His war council stood in silence around him. Generals, admirals, intelligence officers, the most powerful military minds in the empire. None of them spoke. None of them moved. On the screen, Battle Group Ascendant died again. 14 ships, 14,000 soldiers, gone in less than 5 seconds. The recording came from Admiral's emergency beacon. It showed everything. The warning volley, the impossible response, the total destruction of a force that should have been unbeatable. The recording ended with final words. It didn't stop. Waved his hand and the screen went dark. He looked at his council. Their faces told him everything. These were warriors who had crushed rebellions and burned worlds. Now they looked like children who had seen a monster in the darkness. "Speak," commanded. "Tell me what we are facing." Intelligence Minister stepped forward. She was old for with skin and tired eyes, but her mind was still sharp. She had spent 3 days without sleep trying to understand what had happened at Prime. "High Regent," she began, "I must be honest with you. We do not know what destroyed our fleet." A murmur ran through the council, raised his hand, and they fell silent. "Continue," he said. "We have compared the unknown vessel to every ship design in our database. We have records of over 2,000 species. None of them match. The ship uses no technology that we understand. Its hull material is unknown. Its weapon systems are unknown. Its power source is—" she paused, looking for the right words. "Its power source should not exist." "Explain," demanded. "The vessel appears to draw energy directly from spacetime itself. It pulls power from the fabric of reality. Our best scientists say this is impossible. The mathematics do not allow it. And yet, we have seen it with our own eyes." Grand Admiral, commander of the Imperial Navy, slammed his fist against the wall. "Impossible or not, we must respond. One ship destroyed an entire battle group. If we do not act, we look weak. Send the Grand Fleet. Send everything. Find this vessel and reduce it to atoms." "And if it destroys the Grand Fleet the same way?" asked quietly. Opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. He had no answer. None of them did. Stood from his throne and walked down the steps to stand among his council. He was tall, even for a— his presence filled the room. "We will not attack," he decided. "Not yet. Send 3 battle groups to follow the vessel. They will keep their distance. They will not fire, they will watch and report. Meanwhile, Minister, you will search every archive we have, every conquered species, every forbidden record. Someone must know what this thing is." The council members bowed and began to leave. They had their orders, but before they could reach the doors, a voice stopped them. "I know what it is." Everyone turned. An old priest was walking toward them from the shadows at the edge of the throne room. He wore the robes of the scholar caste, a group dedicated to preserving ancient knowledge. Most thought they were useless, keepers of myths and legends that no one cared about anymore. "Who are you?" asked. "How did you get in here?" "My name is not important, High Regent. I am simply a keeper of old words, and the old words speak of this day." The guards moved toward the priest but stopped them with a gesture. There was something in the old one's eyes, something that made want to listen. "Speak your old words then," said. The priest nodded slowly. 40,000 years ago, when they were still young, there was a warning. It was passed down from generation to generation, but over time it was forgotten, dismissed as legend. I am one of the few who still remember it. "What warning?" The priest closed his eyes and recited from memory. His voice was thin but steady. "When the children of Saul awaken, empires will learn humility. When the sleepers rise, the proud will fall. Do not wake them. Do not anger them. Let them sleep forever or face the consequence of their opening eyes." Silence filled the throne room. Looked at. She was already working on her data pad, searching for any reference to the words the priest had spoken. Saul repeated, "What is Saul?" "I do not know, High Regent. The word appears in no star chart, no record. It is a name from before our empire existed, a name that was meant to be forgotten." But someone remembered, said. Her face had gone pale. "Someone always remembers." Turned back to the priest. "If this warning is real, what are we supposed to do? How do we stop these children of Saul?" The old priest opened his eyes and looked directly at the High Regent. For the first time, there was real fear in his gaze. "The warning does not say how to stop them, High Regent. It only says what happens if they wake up, and I believe they have woken up." A communication officer ran into the throne room. He was out of breath and his hands were shaking. "High Regent, the unknown vessel has changed course." Felt his heart skip a beat. "Where is it heading now?" The officer swallowed hard before answering. "Here, High Regent, it is coming directly here, to Nexus. At its current speed, it will arrive in 6 days." The throne room erupted in chaos. Officers shouted orders. Generals called for their staffs. Everyone was moving, running, trying to prepare for something they did not understand. Only High Regent stood still. He looked at the old priest, who had not moved either. "You knew this would happen," said. "You knew they would come for us." The priest nodded slowly. The children of Saul do not forget, High Regent, and they do not forgive. Admiral fired upon them. Now they are coming to ask why. Ask, they destroyed an entire battle group. Yes, the priest agreed. They defended themselves, and now they want to talk. I suggest you listen very carefully to what they have to say. The priest turned and walked back into the shadows, leaving the most powerful being in the galaxy standing alone, afraid for the first time in his long life. 6 days. He had 6 days to prepare for a meeting with a species that could destroy his entire civilization. He had no idea if that would be enough. News travels fast in the galaxy, even when empires try to hide it. The government ordered complete silence about what happened at Prime. No official reports, no public announcements. Anyone who spoke about the incident would be arrested, but secrets have a way of escaping. A soldier tells his family. A technician talks to a friend. A smuggler picks up a strange transmission and sells it to the highest bidder. Within 3 days, half the galaxy knew that something had destroyed a battle group. Within 4 days, they knew they had no idea what it was. Within 5 days, everyone was talking about the mysterious black ship that killed 14,000 soldiers in less than 5 seconds. On space stations and trading posts, in cantinas and market squares, beings of 100 different species whispered to each other. They were afraid. The mighty empire that had ruled for 40,000 years was facing something it could not beat. For most species, this was good news. They had conquered their worlds, killed their people, and stolen their resources. If someone was finally making them afraid, then maybe there was hope. 3 battle groups were now following the black vessel at extreme distance. They kept their weapons cold and their shields down. They did not want to give the ship any reason to defend itself again. Every hour they sent back reports. The vessel continued toward Nexus. It did not speed up. It did not slow down. It just kept coming, patient and unstoppable. Far from the Imperial core, on a criminal station called Freeport Omega, a very different conversation was taking place. Freeport Omega was a place where laws did not exist. Pirates, smugglers, refugees, and criminals from across the galaxy came here to hide. The station's corridors were crowded and dirty. The air smelled of smoke and old food. It was not a nice place, but it was a free place. They had tried to destroy it many times, but it always rebuilt itself somewhere else. In a dark corner of the station's main bar, a group of traders sat around a table, sharing drinks and stories about the black ship. Most of them thought it was a joke, some kind of trick. They were probably making the whole thing up to justify building more weapons. But one being at the table was not laughing. His species was almost extinct now. Only a few thousand remained, living on refugee ships that wandered from system to system. They were small and fragile, with thin limbs and large eyes. 12,000 years ago, they had been one of the great powers of the galaxy. Now they were nothing, just survivors of a disaster that most species had forgotten about. The old was listening to the traders describe the black ship. His hands were shaking. His large eyes were filled with tears. "You recognize it," one of the traders said. "Don't you, old one? You know what that ship is." They nodded slowly. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "The sleeping ones, they have finally come." The traders leaned closer. Suddenly, the joke was not funny anymore. "What are you talking about?" the trader asked. "What sleeping ones?" The old took a long breath. He had never told this story to outsiders before. His people kept it secret because the shame was too great. But now, with the black ship flying toward the heart of the empire, there was no point in keeping secrets anymore. 12,000 years ago, he began, they were powerful. We had 400 worlds. Our fleet was larger than the fleet is today. We thought we were the masters of the galaxy. He paused to wipe his eyes. Then we found them, in the dead space beyond the rim, a structure floating in the darkness. It was enormous, a habitat of some kind. Inside we found millions of beings in frozen sleep. Their bodies were preserved. Their machines were still running. They had been sleeping for thousands of years. Who were they? The trader asked. We did not know, we did not care. We only cared about their technology, their ships, their weapons, their tools. Everything they had was beyond our understanding. We thought if we could take it, if we could study it, we would become the most powerful species in the galaxy. The old's voice broke. We tried to take one of the sleepers. We wanted to wake them up and force them to share their knowledge, but we made a mistake. We did not just wake one of them. We woke all of them. The bar had gone quiet. Everyone was listening now. What happened? Someone asked. They were not angry at first. They were confused. They asked us where they were, how long they had been sleeping. We did not answer their questions. Instead, we demanded that they surrender their technology. We threatened them with our weapons. They laughed bitterly. Our weapons, 400 worlds, 10,000 ships, we thought we were so strong. He shook his head. They destroyed everything in a single day. Not a battle, not a war, just erasure, like we were insects beneath their feet. When it was over, only 3 ships full of refugees remained. The rest of our civilization was gone. Who were they? The trader asked again. What species? They called themselves humans. They came from a small yellow star that they called Sol. They told us that they had fled a great war in their home territory. They had been running for thousands of years, looking for a safe place to sleep and heal. We found them when they were weak. We threatened them when they were waking up. The old looked around the table. After they destroyed us, they disappeared. We thought they had died. We hoped they had died. But I always knew they were still out there, sleeping, waiting, watching. At that moment, the bar's communication system crackled to life. A message was being broadcast on all frequencies across the galaxy. The voice that spoke was calm and clear. It spoke perfect, the language of the Empire. This is a message for all who can hear. You fired on us. We are coming to discuss this. Do not fire again. The message repeated, over and over, reaching every corner of the galaxy. The old stood up from the table. His legs were shaking. The sleeping ones have awakened, he said, and now the galaxy will learn what we learned 12,000 years ago. What's that? The trader asked. They looked at him with ancient, tired eyes. That there are things in this universe much older than empires, much stronger than armies, and much more patient than anyone can imagine. The humans waited 15,000 years. They can wait longer, but I do not think anyone will make them wait again. He walked away, leaving the bar in stunned silence. Across the galaxy, billions of beings heard the message from the black ship. Some were afraid, some were curious, and some, the ones who had suffered under rule for generations, felt something they had not felt in a very long time. Hope. Something was coming, something powerful, and for the first time in 40,000 years, the Empire did not know if it would survive what came next. High Regent had gathered the largest fleet in the history of his empire. 2,000 warships floated in formation around Nexus. 40 dreadnoughts, each one capable of destroying a planet. Hundreds of orbital defense platforms, their weapons charged and ready. And hidden in deep bunkers beneath the surface, the weapons waited. These were devices so terrible that they had only been used once before, to end a war that had threatened the Empire's existence. This was everything they had, every ship, every weapon, every soldier. If the black vessel wanted a fight, it would face the full power of a 40,000-year-old civilization. But High Regent was not confident. He had read intelligence ministers' reports. He had listened to the stories from a dozen extinct species. He had heard the warning of the old priest, and he had watched the recording from Prime so many times that he saw it when he closed his eyes. The black ship had not even tried to destroy Battle Group Ascendant. It had simply defended itself, like brushing away a fly. What would happen if it actually attacked? The answer came on the 6th day, exactly when expected. High Regent, the censor officer announced, The vessel has arrived. It has stopped at the edge of the system. Stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Will. Around him, admirals and generals waited for orders. Their faces were hard, but he could see the fear in their eyes. "Show me," commanded. The main screen displayed the black vessel. It looked exactly like the recordings, small, smooth, dark. It floated alone against the stars, a single ship facing 2,000. "Scan it," ordered. "Tell me everything." The sensor teams worked their equipment. Data filled the screens. The more they learned, the worse it got. "The ship is old, High Regent," reported. She was standing beside him, her voice carefully controlled. "Our estimates suggest it has been traveling for at least 10,000 years, possibly longer." "How is that possible? How can any ship survive that long?" "Unknown. The technology is beyond our understanding. The hull appears to repair itself. The power systems never run out. It is like the ship is alive." "Weapons?" Hesitated. "We cannot detect any weapons, High Regent. No ports, no turrets, no missile bays, but we know what it did to Battle Group Ascendant. The weapons are there. We simply cannot see them." Grand Admiral stepped forward. "We should strike now, High Regent, while we have the advantage. 2,000 ships against one. Even if it destroyed 100 of us, 1,000 of us, we would still win." Looked at the Admiral. "Would we? Are you willing to bet the Empire on that?" Before could answer, the communication officer spoke up. "High Regent, the vessel is launching something. A small craft. It is heading toward us." Every weapon in the fleet locked onto the approaching shuttle. Raised his hand. "Do not fire," he commanded. "Let it come." The shuttle was small and simple. It landed in the main hangar of the Eternal Will without any trouble. 1,000 soldiers surrounded it, their weapons ready. Himself came down to meet whatever emerged. The shuttle door opened. 3 beings walked out. They were tall and strange. 2 arms, 2 legs, soft skin in different shades of brown and pink. Their faces were flat with small eyes and thin mouths. They wore simple uniforms with no armor, no weapons, no protection of any kind. The leader was a female. Her hair was dark and cut short. Her eyes were calm and steady. She looked at the 1,000 weapons pointed at her and showed no fear at all. "I am Captain Myra," she said in perfect. "I represent the United Nations of Sol. I command the survey vessel Remembrance. We are here to discuss recent events." Stepped forward. He was twice her height. His body was covered in natural armor. He could have killed her with one hand. But he did not touch her. Something in her eyes stopped him. "You destroyed 14 of my ships," said. "You killed 14,000 of my people." Captain nodded. "Your admiral fired on us. Our ship defended itself. We did not want that to happen. That is why we are here, to talk." "Talk?" Grand Admiral laughed. "You attack us and then you want to talk." "We did not attack you," said. Her voice was patient, like a teacher explaining something to a child. "We were passing through your space. We sent no threats. We made no aggressive moves. Your admiral fired first. Our ship responded automatically. If we had wanted to attack you, Admiral, we would not have sent a warning shot." Felt cold. "Warning shot? You call the destruction of a battle group a warning shot?" "No, your admiral fired a warning shot at us. Our ship's response was self-defense. If the Remembrance had considered your fleet a real threat, it would have responded differently." "How differently?" Captain looked at him with those strange, calm eyes. "The Remembrance is not a warship, High Regent. It is a survey vessel, a science ship. Its crew numbers 40. We were sent to explore and observe, to see what the galaxy looks like after 15,000 years of sleep." The hangar was completely silent. "You are saying," spoke slowly, "that a science ship with 40 crew destroyed an entire battle group in 5 seconds?" "Yes." "Without trying." "The ship's defensive systems require no crew input. They operate automatically when we are threatened. The crew did not even know Battle Group Ascendant had been neutralized until several minutes later. We were having breakfast. Felt his legs weaken. He had gathered 2,000 warships, 40 dreadnoughts, weapons, and he was facing a science ship that had destroyed his fleet during breakfast. "What do you want?" he asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "We want to understand why your admiral attacked us. We want to know if this is your empire's official policy, and we want to know if we should expect more attacks in the future." "What happens if I say yes, that attacking you is our policy?" Captain tilted her head slightly. "Then we will leave this system and report back to our people. They will decide what to do next, but I should tell you something, High Regent." "What?" "The Remembrance is one of 12,000 human vessels currently patrolling the galaxy's rim. We are the smallest and least armed ship in our fleet. I was sent alone because we did not think I would need support for a simple survey mission." She paused to let that sink in. "We have no interest in conquest, High Regent. We learned long ago that empires built on blood always fall. We simply want to live in peace, but we will not tolerate aggression. Your admiral fired on us. We defended ourselves. If you attack us again, we will defend ourselves again. And if you force us to bring more than one ship—" She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Looked around the hangar at his soldiers, his weapons, his mighty empire. All of it suddenly felt very small, very fragile, very temporary. "We will not attack you," he said finally. "What happened at Prime was a mistake. Admiral acted without orders. It will not happen again." Captain smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "Good, that is all we wanted to hear. Perhaps in time our peoples can learn to be neighbors. There is much we could share with each other, but that will take trust, and trust must be built slowly." She turned to walk back to her shuttle, then she stopped and looked back. "One more thing, High Regent. There are many species in this galaxy who have suffered under your rule. We have met some of them. They have stories to tell. You might want to think about how you treat your neighbors from now on, because we will be watching." She stepped into the shuttle. The door closed, and a few moments later the small craft flew back out into space, returning to the black ship that waited at the edge of the system. Stood in the hangar for a long time after she left. He had built the largest fleet in history. He had gathered every weapon his empire possessed, and in the end, he had surrendered without firing a single shot. Because there was nothing else he could do, the news spread faster than light itself. The Empire, rulers of 10,000 worlds for 40,000 years, had surrendered. Not in battle, not after a long war. They had simply given up when faced with a single ship and 3 unarmed visitors. At first no one believed it. They were too strong, too proud, too cruel. They did not surrender. They conquered. They destroyed. They ruled without mercy and crushed anyone who challenged them. But the recordings were real. Millions of beings across the galaxy watched as High Regent stood in his own hangar, surrounded by 1,000 soldiers, and told a human woman that his empire would not attack her people again. They watched his face. They saw the fear in his eyes, and they understood that everything had changed. On the slave worlds of the outer territories, workers stopped their labor and looked up at the sky. For generations, they had worked in the mines and factories of the empire. They had been beaten and starved and killed for the smallest mistakes. They had forgotten what hope felt like. But now, watching the recording of a small human woman making an empire tremble, they remembered. On the refugee ships of the survivors gathered in their tiny common rooms and wept. 12,000 years ago, they had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked the sleeping humans and paid for it with their civilization. Now the humans were awake again, and instead of destroying the galaxy, they were asking for peace. They had expected monsters. They found something else entirely. On Freeport Omega, the pirates and smugglers raised their glasses in celebration. They had hunted them for centuries. Now the hunters were afraid of something bigger than themselves. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in a single day. And on Nexus itself, High Regent sat alone in his throne room and thought about everything he had learned. Intelligence Minister had compiled a full report. The humans were real. They had existed for millions of years, evolving on a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star called Sol. They had built civilizations and destroyed them. They had reached for the stars and fought terrible wars among themselves. And then, 15,000 years ago, something had happened. A great conflict. A great loss. The surviving humans had fled into the depths of space, leaving their homes behind, looking for somewhere safe to heal. They had found dead space at the edge of the galaxy. They had built habitats and filled them with sleeping people. They had shut down their ships and closed their eyes and waited for the universe to forget them. But they had not stopped watching. While they slept, their machines kept working. Tiny probes spread across the galaxy, invisible and silent, recording everything that happened. The rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of species, the endless cycle of war and conquest that seemed to define galactic civilization. The humans watched it all, and they waited. Now they were awake, and they were not what anyone expected. Thought about Captain's words. We have no interest in conquest. We learned long ago that empires built on blood always fall. We simply want to live in peace. He thought about the who had attacked the humans and lost everything. He thought about Battle Group Ascendant, destroyed in 5 seconds without the humans even noticing. He thought about the 12,000 ships patrolling the rim and the technology that made their science vessels more powerful than his dreadnoughts. The humans could have conquered the galaxy. They could have destroyed the empire and taken everything for themselves. They had the power to do anything they wanted. But they did not want conquest. They wanted peace. Did not understand this. His entire civilization was built on taking things from others, on proving strength through domination, on ruling through fear. The idea that a species with unlimited power would choose not to use it made no sense to him. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the humans had learned something that they had not. Maybe there was a better way to build a civilization. The door to the throne room opened. Entered, her face troubled. "High Regent," she said, "we are receiving reports from across the Empire. There are protests on several worlds. The conquered species are demanding better treatment. They say if the humans are watching, they want the humans to see that we can be fair." Laughed bitterly. "They think the humans will protect them." "Perhaps they will." Captain said they would be watching. "What do you suggest we do?" Hesitated before answering. "I suggest we give them what they want, High Regent, not because we are afraid of the humans, but because it is the right thing to do." Stared at her. "The right thing to do? Since when do we care about that?" "Since we learned that there are consequences for cruelty. Since we learned that the universe is bigger than we thought. Since we learned that we are not alone." She stepped closer to the throne. "The humans have been watching us for 15,000 years, High Regent. They have seen everything we have done, the conquests, the massacres, the slavery. They know exactly who we are. And yet when they finally revealed themselves, they did not destroy us. They gave us a chance to be better." Was silent for a long time. Finally, he stood from his throne and walked to the window. Outside, the sky was dark and full of stars. Somewhere out there, 12,000 human ships were flying through the void, watching, waiting, giving the galaxy time to prove itself. "Send the orders," said quietly. "Tell the governors to ease the restrictions, improve the conditions in the work camps, begin negotiations with the protest leaders. We will not do this all at once, but we will start." "Yes, High Regent." Turned to leave but spoke again. "Do you think the humans will ever trust us?" She considered the question carefully. "I think trust takes time, High Regent, but I think if we show them that we can change, they will give us the chance to prove it. That seems to be who they are, patient, watchful, hopeful." She left and was alone again. Far away at the edge of the galaxy, the UNSV Remembrance continued its journey. Captain Myra stood on the bridge and looked at the stars. Behind her, her small crew worked at their stations, analyzing data, sending reports, preparing for the next system on their survey list. "Captain," her first officer said, "we are receiving confirmation from Command. They have agreed to our terms. No further aggression, improved treatment of subject species, regular communication channels." Nodded. "Good, that is a start. Do you think they will keep their word?" "I think they will try. Fear is a powerful motivator, at least at first, but real change takes time. We will keep watching, we will keep waiting, and we will see what they become." The first officer smiled. "You sound like the Admiral. I learned from him. He always said that the strongest weapon is not a gun or a bomb. It is patience. It is hope. It is giving people the chance to be better than they were." She turned back to the stars. "We slept for 15,000 years. We watched civilizations rise and fall. We saw the worst that intelligent life can do to itself. And we decided that when we woke up, we would not add to the darkness. We would show them another way. And if they reject that way, then we will be sad, but we will not give up, because hope is not something that dies. It is something that waits, and we are very good at waiting." The Remembrance jumped to faster-than-light speed and disappeared into the darkness between stars. Across the galaxy, billions of beings looked up at the night sky and wondered what would happen next. The old order was changing. A new age was beginning. And somewhere out there, the children of Saul were watching over them all. Patient, ancient, hopeful. Waiting to see what the galaxy would become.